Hello, my name is Ken Scheel, and I'm the founder of KEVA Planks, and delighted to be with you to share with you some of the things that you can do with KEVA Planks in remote learning. Hopefully we won't have to do this much longer, but if you are needing to do some active learning with your students, I'm going to be sharing some things that you can do with that. The nice thing with this is that these are all activities that are done with just 20 planks or less. And so if you happen to already have KEVA Planks, a supply of those, you could distribute these to your students that you're working with. Just put them in Ziploc bags or whatever you would like to get those in their hands, and then they'll have materials in their hands, and everyone you're working with would have the same materials. And so I'll be showing you how you can do that remotely. And I've enlisted two of my colleagues from KEVA Planks. They are sort of acting as your students. So I'm pretending to be you as the teacher, and they're pretending to be the students, so you can get a sense of what this is like to do remotely. So we've got Kate and Amy with us. So thank you all for helping out. The first thing I'd like to do is if we could write our name or our initials with the KEVA Planks. And you get bonus points for creativity, so you don't necessarily do it the simplest way you could do it. Simple is fine also. But, and if you have a long name, maybe you want to just do your initials. And I'll give you a quick view of some here. When you're viewing from the videos, it ends up showing backwards, so you may want to talk about that sometime. I don't know if I've seen Amy spelled like that, and that's going to be kind of a real balancing trick. The way you can see Amy's trying to do that looks kind of like a goalpost. Very nice. So that's a couple of really nice examples right there of the wide variety of ways that people might do this challenge. And that's one of the beauties of open-ended challenges that we always do with KEVA Planks, is that you can do something so simple as just inviting them to write their name. And if you're doing this with 30 students at the same time, you may get 30 different fonts back for the way people choose to challenge that. So that's part of the beauty of this. If you had wanted to do an extension of this, perhaps you could have them make just one letter and use all 20 planks or as many planks as they want, so they can create a lot more detail into the plank. And then if they take a picture of that, then they can do some graphic design of doing the graphics of taking the multiple photos of larger letters and stitching those all together to create something that has more detail into it and be able to share with that. For me, it's really fun to be able to look even now when I just have two other people to be looking at, to see what they're doing. And I can, this actually gives me a better look at what people are doing than if I was doing this. I normally do these sessions in front of a room full of teachers, and I cannot see to the back of the room what people are doing. And by the students sharing, if they're willing to share their space like we are here, you can get a great view of exactly what they're doing. And it becomes very interesting for you as the teacher and for the students, because they can all see each other as well if they're willing to share their screen. Here's some more examples of how to do these. That's just a fun, interesting thing to do with those. I think that's all we'll do with fonts. Now let's do another challenge and see if you can design a piece of furniture. So maybe you want to think about a particular room in your house, a living room, a dining room, a bedroom, that might give you some ideas of something you might want to build. With these sorts of challenges, you can give them the time parameters as far as whether they're going to have 1 minute to do this or 10 minutes to do this, and that gives them an idea of how much care to put into it. All of these activities also work for great lead-ins, just if when you're back doing face-to-face learning, if someone has just come into your room or into the library and when you just get warmed up with them, you could do this sort of activity. So let's build a piece of furniture, and it might only take 5 minutes to do that. So it looks like Amy has built a chair, and Kate has done a few different things there. And I think I can tell what Kate has done. It looks like maybe she's trying to make a go ahead, Kate.
I'm attempting to make an umbrella for like a patio furniture.
Okay.
Having
And
trouble with
tell me about what you were experiencing with trying to do that upright. It looked like you had some issues and then you were trying to make a solution to your problem.
Well, it took some balancing, and it seemed like just putting one block there wasn't enough support. So I'm just trying to strengthen my pole by adding an extra block.
Yeah, it looked like you stabilized that with part of the blocks on your table are helping to hold up the pole
Yeah.
for your umbrella. So one of the beautiful things about KEVA Planks is that you can have mistakes, you can have temporary setbacks, and it's very easy to regroup and try it again. And maybe it requires just another attempt with being more careful with your balance, or in this case, Kate changed her strategy a little bit for how she was going to shore up that center post there. And so those are just microcosms of what we want our students to be doing all the time, is getting used to the resilience of having something not go exactly the way they want and be able to regroup and press on and make it work. And that happens over and over again when you're building with KEVA planks, because they're not glued together. So you inherently have things falling down and not going the way you think they might go. And it's by exercising that resilience muscle that they get used to that tiny failures or maybe even a catastrophic failure is not that big of a deal, and you often learn something from that, and maybe the next iteration of what you're building is going to be an improvement over what you did originally. But you could take a picture of this, and then maybe you would build different ways to build chairs. You can make this very specific and say, today I'd like everybody to try to build some sort of chair. And then you could see all the wide varieties that somebody might build a chair, and potentially take pictures of the chair, a sofa, a coffee table, and so you could visually construct the equivalent of an entire living room set of furniture. And all these things you can they become much more fun if you have a lot of KEVA planks. So when you get back in person, and if you have 1,000 KEVA planks in your library, and they can come down and really build furniture or multiple sets of furniture and things like that, that's when the really fun happens. But we're trying to do the best we can with distance learning or with a minimal number of planks. And we are going to move on to another challenge here. And as we're moving on, I wanted to just point out that just the structure of what we've been doing is sort of what I call the all-purpose lesson plan, where I'm giving open-ended challenge. I'm giving you a certain amount of time, 1 minute, 3 minutes, whatever, to build that. And then that gives me a chance to speak into whatever you're building, to teach something in particular, or admire what you're doing, or get feedback. And so all of those things are what are taking place every time you do an open-ended challenge. So here's a bed, some examples. There's a bench. And we're going to skip the triangles. That's something you can do with designing different types of triangles and using that as the sort of design you could make. And there's some examples of triangular type structures. So now let's have everybody build something related to plants, a flower, an entire plant, a flower pot, gardens, anything that is somehow related to plants. And while they're doing that, while Kate and Amy are building something, wanted to tell you a little bit more about just how you might manage KEVA planks when there is concern about transmission of germs or anything for COVID. The COVID organism will only live on a dry surface for 2 to 3 days. So if you are using these in your library or your classroom, one strategy would be to divide your planks up into thirds. And so you use a third of them today, and then you rotate those out. So those are just sitting in a back room unused. And then the next day you bring out another portion of those. The other thing you can do in the classroom, even when you're back in the classroom, is instead of keeping all your KEVA planks in a large bin or storage container, is to distribute those out so each student has 20 or 40 or whatever planks you have, and they keep those as their own supply. So they're just handling their own blocks. Hopefully we will soon get rid of all of these restrictions though, because the real engagement comes from when people are starting to collaborate and work together and have time to get new ideas and build into those and build bigger things. So I'm looking forward to, and I know you are especially looking forward to be able to do much more of that active hands-on learning. So let me go and see what we've got here. Amy, could you tell us a little bit of what you have built there?
Yeah, so I kind of went a little bit away from the plant life and made a hydroponics system or raised beds.
Uh-huh.
For the hydroponics, and then there's water here. So I did some garden planting, and then this is maybe a separate raised garden bed with dirt.
Okay, very nice. I know sometimes with hydroponics you might have fish in one side of so combining plants and fish, there's so many different ways you can do that. So very good. And Kate, can you tell us a little bit about what you've made?
Yeah, I just created a part of a vine or a plant, and if you were talking about leaf arrangement or how it's set up on a vine, I think this is called alternate. So I was trying to make the leaves have a specific orientation. So
right, very nice. So, and if the leaves were coming straight out across from each other, that would be called opposite branching versus what you've shown is alternate branching. And you can see on the screen here, you could ask your students to label the parts of the plant, and depending on the grade that you're working with, a very young child might be just doing the petals, the leaves, the stem, the roots, as we've shown here. But with older students, you might be looking at the pistils and the stamens. You could do a magnified portion of a cross-section of a plant and be looking at the phloem and xylem tubes. You could be exploring photosynthesis and what the sun is doing, and all of those different elements. So using the challenge that you're doing to make it more hands-on and interesting for your students, and then you teach into whatever it is that you really want to be teaching, whether you're doing a section on plants or plant parts, whatever your objectives are. And you can see just a moment ago, Amy she just made a really cute leaf that you could see the vein pattern in there. And so you can go out and collect leaves, or they can find leaves online and try to duplicate a leaf. It looks like Kate just made the petals of a flower, and maybe there's pistils and stamens that are sticking up in the middle of her flower. And you can see if we had asked them to build an airplane, you can label the parts of the airplane or however you like with that. So I want to move on and thank you all. Those were, got to see a lot of plants there in a short amount of time. So thank you for building all of those things. So now we're going to play a game called Sculptura. And with this is just a fun, easy game that you can do remotely. And I just have an ordinary die. And what we're going to do is I'm going to roll that die. And then if I roll a 1 or a 2, you'll be stacking 2 blocks that are upright. If I roll a 3 or a 4, they'll be on edge. And if it's a 5 or a 6, you'll be flat. So upright, on edge, or flat. So I'll roll this down here so you can see the die. And the first one is a 4. So if you all would stack 2 blocks that are on edge any way you like. And then I'm going to roll that again. And a 6. So 2 blocks that are flat any way you like. And I'm going to roll again. So I'm not going to give you very much time to think about it. 2 more that are on edge. And in this case, our objective is to just make something that looks kind of interesting or cool. So think of sort of just an abstract sculpture maybe it'll become something different. That okay, good. We got our first upright. So I did a 1. So do 2 blocks that are upright. And one of the reasons I'm doing, you could do this where people are just stacking 1 block at a time, but by doing 2 at a time, it allows you to create, like just by doing the uprights, those could become posts, and it gives you an opportunity to maybe create a span across those if you wanted to. The next one is a 2, so we need 2 more that are upright. And I just did another 1, so we need 2 more uprights. So we have a real run on uprights here for the moment. And uprights are more, take more care with balancing. And I'm going to, there we go, there's a 5. So we have 2 that are flat. And I think we'll just stop there now. And we can, after you see if you can place those, and it looks like since we have so many uprights, you had to do some very careful stacking with that. For either of you, did you start to think that you were building anything in particular, or would you describe yours as just a totally abstract structure?
When I put these down, I was thinking maybe if I get the right ones, I could start making steps up.
Yeah.
But once I got the other edge, I just thought about like different angles that I wanted to do
Right.
with the planks.
Yeah, good. Amy, did you? Go ahead.
I was just going to say it started to feel architectural, so I started to imagine little people being able to walk on it. So maybe a tree house or a pavilion of some kind.
Yeah, that's interesting. Just as the scale that in your mind that you're creating as to whether it's something where the people might be really tiny and walking into that, so it's like a big structure, and at the beginning you would have no idea where you might be going with that, and that's part of the fun unpredictability of this structure, of this activity. You can also do it if you don't have any dice at all. You could just designate one person who's just going to call these things out, or you can go from person to person, and you can just say, Amy, what do you want to do next? And she could say 2 uprights. And then I go to Kate and say, what do you want to do? And she says 2 flat. And so you can give people a chance to participate and control the direction of where that might be going. You can also set different parameters on this. In this case, we were doing it just so they look interesting or cool, but it could be that maybe what we're trying to do is build the tallest structure you can with the 20 planks that you're going to go, and we're going to roll the dice as many times as we can. And so you have to make some strategic ideas for whether you want to go taller up on uprights, or how you might want to do that. So there would be some strategic ideas within that. So very good. So that we call that Sculptura, and there's just some examples of that. I'd like you to think of a book. Any book you could think of. It could be a children's book, it could be an adult book, and I want you to build anything that represents something out of that book. So whatever you like, and just have a couple of minutes here to do that. So don't worry about making it too perfect, and you can do this. This can be done with people of any age, from a kindergartner, you could be doing this from a storybook that you've just read. You can read the book to them online, or maybe it's a book that you're asking them about books that they've checked out from the library or something like that. Or this could be a high school student who is reading some book or story that's appropriate for a high schooler, and they're trying to represent something that has to do with that booklet, with the book that they're reading. And this is normally when I do this in a live session. This is one of my favorite activities to do, just because it really stretches the mind from having to take a concept from a book and making it concrete, and having to represent things imperfectly, where you only have these blocks, so you're not going to be able to make a perfect representation. So you have to use a lot of different parts of the mind to imagine to first come up quickly with the idea of what you're even going to build, and then be able to somehow innovatively think of a way to represent that object when you're using all the same blocks. So why don't we go with Kate, if you want to go first, could you tell us what you've built there and what the book is that you're thinking of?
I was trying to make the Millennium Falcon
Oh,
shape for
yeah.
Star Wars.
Okay.
So I was just trying to get the basic look of it, but
Okay.
yeah.
Well, very good. And with Star Wars, I'm not sure if there's a Star Wars book, but you can be doing this for movies as well, or programs. So that's great. So Amy, what about yours? Can you tell us what you've built and what the story is?
I made Green Gables from Anne of Green Gables, and then this is the pen where their cow that gets out of the pen.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's wonderful. So, so Amy's using a story that's for older children that they might be reading and enjoying that. That same scene that she just made there, that might be for Charlotte's Web also, and you could have a pig in there instead of a cow. But it's the imagination that fills that in. And part of what we're doing with this also is that we just had the equivalent of a mini book report. We just learned that in Green Gables, there's a portion when a cow gets out and they have to go chase that. And so this helps to open up the idea of telling about a story or explaining it to someone else. And by doing it physically with the blocks, it somehow makes it easier to explain what you just built and why you just built that. And this would, if we had more time, it would give me the chance to ask more about the story and find out more about who are the characters in the story, what happened when the cow got out. I could be asking Kate more about the Star Wars characters, what's her favorite character, and why that's your favorite character, or the battle of good and evil in Star Wars. All of these things that just by doing this one simple activity, it creates conversation and relationship between the people, between you who are leading it and the students. And also the students get to hear this from each other. So they're talking to each other and getting to know each other. And especially in the midst of this isolation, it is creating the relational bonds that are so sorely lacking right now in so many different places. Another thing you may have noticed also is that for Kate and Amy, you can't see their faces. So there's also a certain security for the people that they don't necessarily feel like they're on display because they're only showing what they're building with their hands. So, and depending on where the camera is located, that you could adjust that, and maybe they do want to see their faces seen, but have their faces seen, but you can make the adjustments however you like with that. So you can also work backwards with these and create something and then make up a story about what has been built. And you could do that with anything that a class builds. You could talk about a story. Maybe there's a common story or book that the whole class is reading, and everybody in the class at the same time would be building something to represent something that happened in that book. So maybe it's your favorite moment in the book or something like that. And so you get to find out what people are thinking about the book. I think we may have time for just one more thing here, and we're going to do something. I wanted to show you an example here before I get to that. I just pulled up this picture of a scene. One of the challenges is making a miniature scene, and maybe you can see right there in the middle, there's a little pop-up of a little stick figure person, and by adding other materials, whether they're Lego people or homemade paper stick-ups or anything like that, combining different elements to the things you're building can add interest to that. But now we're going to play, the last thing we'll do is called Tech Talk. And so I'm going to be giving you verbal instructions, and I'm going to be building something here. And I want Kate and Amy to follow my instructions and try to build that there. So first thing I'd like you to do is take 2 blocks and place them flat on your table and have them right next to each other. And yeah, we'll start with that. And now take 2 more blocks and put those at the ends of the 2 blocks that you just built and put these on edge. And now we're going to take 2 more blocks and, well, we'll take 1 block and put it on the right side. So right now, maybe it looks like an H, and on the right side of the block that is on edge, put this one so it creates what looks like a T. And now take an upright block and put it right in the middle of the first blocks that you put down.
Sorry, can you repeat the last block? Was that on edge?
It was upright.
Upright.
Yeah.
That and makes a shape like a T?
No, I didn't tell you anything more than that.
Okay. I might be a couple steps behind.
And one last block, I want you to put this flat on top of the top of the T that you made. And so I'm going to show you what I made. And the screen is not perfect to be able to see these, but it looks like they are fairly close. The ability to get these corrects depends on a lot of factors, though. And there were a few times where I gave rather vague instructions, and so depending on the quality of my instructions and whether you understand the terms that I'm using, if I use the word parallel, do you know what parallel means, or perpendicular? And if just positionally where I'm trying to put these, it's very important for communication, whether you're engineers or whether you're a doctor or in any particular profession where you're trying to communicate, it's critical that the sender and the receiver both have the same concept of the terms that you're using. It became, I was purposely not looking at what you were doing, because if I could see what you're doing and see the mistakes that you're making, then I could adjust and give you more instructions until I could see that you were getting it right. And then Kate asked for clarification on something and also said she might be a little bit behind. So I was not looking to see whether you were even keeping up with how fast I was talking. So once I start talking too fast and you get behind on something, then it gets really frustrating to even figure out, well, where do I even go now? So all of those elements go into such a quick, simple activity about very precise communication. And you can do this with a parameter of not being able to see what each other are doing, whether you have to stay silent, and whether there's questions allowed or not. So if you're allowed to do clarifying questions and say, I don't understand where you want that, or did you mean this? Did you say upright or on edge because I missed that, or anything like that? As soon as you allow the back and forth clarification of instructions, the quality and precision is going to go way up. With this activity, I like to especially at the beginning, do it maybe with just 5 planks at the most, so that you can't get derailed too much. If you're doing this in person, you can do this with one person up in front and doing it for an entire group of people, or between 2 people, you can just prop a book up or any kind of object that would block the view of what the other person is seeing. So that's called Tech Talk, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that one. And again, this could be used just as a warm-up when you're coming back from lunch or introducing some other topic. Another challenge: build a place to live. Think about house, igloos, that sort of thing. So here's some house examples. We just did Tech Talk. I did want to show you that we do have a new set of challenge cards out, and these are 3 views of the same object. You can see that on the screen, and this is one of the examples of the card. And then after the person looks at this and at 3 views of the same object, and after they've built that, they can flip the card over and check and see if they made a bench that looked like that. 4x6 cards, they have a glossy finish and they're very durable, so they're bigger and easier to see than our previous deck that we were using. And it also has a plastic storage case and a little booklet that comes with it that tells you some of the basics of what you're trying to communicate and some different activities and fun ways to use those to teach technical drawings. I also wanted to remind you that if you want new ideas, see new project ideas, and one of the best places to see that is with our Instagram page, that we are posting things regularly on there. And when we see really interesting things that other teachers or people are building or doing, we share those as well. So that's a constant, really beautiful, interesting way to get new ideas of things you can do with your KEVA planks. And also remember that we do have a teacher discount on our website. So when you go to look at things, the prices that you're seeing, if you're a teacher, you can register as an educator and you can get better prices than that, and free shipping. So take advantage of that. And I want to thank you for joining me. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at ken@kevaplanks.com. And I'm happy to talk to you more about any of these things or any questions or ideas that you might be searching for with KEVA Planks. So hope you have a great day, and thanks for joining me.